Imagine this: you're scrolling through your feed late at night, heart racing from one viral story to the next, when suddenly you stumble upon a tale so shocking, so twisted, yet so profoundly human that it stops you in your tracks. What if I told you about a billionaire tycoon, a man whose empire spanned continents, who kept a pair of black Maid's panties right on his polished mahogany desk? And when she, the woman who'd cleaned his mansion for years in quiet dignity, returned to confront him, he just looked up with that enigmatic smile and said, "Well, you'll have to stick around to find out." But trust me, this isn't just another scandal, it's a journey of heartbreak, redemption, and the unbreakable spirit that binds us all. If stories like this move you, hit that like button right now to show your support, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional roller coasters that leave you inspired. Turn on notifications so you never miss one, because life's too short for ordinary tales. Now, let's dive in. Her name was Alara Thompson, a 42-year-old woman with skin like polished ebony and eyes that held the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. Born in the heart of Harlem to parents who scraped by on dreams deferred, Alara had learned early that survival meant bending without breaking. She wasn't just any maid, she was the invisible force that kept the sprawling estate of billionaire Alexander Harrington immaculate. For 5 years, she'd dusted his crystal chandeliers, polished his silver heirlooms, and scrubbed away the remnants of his lavish parties, all while raising her 2 teenage daughters alone after her husband walked out on them during the recession. Money was tight, bills piled up like autumn leaves, and Alara often skipped meals so her girls could eat. But she held her head high, her uniform starched crisp, her smile polite even when exhaustion clawed at her bones. Alexander Harrington, on the other hand, was an enigma wrapped in luxury. At 58, he was the CEO of Harrington Global, a tech conglomerate that revolutionized AI and made him one of the richest men alive. His face graced Forbes covers, his name synonymous with innovation and ruthlessness. Divorced twice, childless, he lived in a gilded cage of his own making, a 50-room mansion overlooking the Pacific in Malibu. To the world, he was untouchable, a man who collected yachts and art like others collected stamps. But beneath the tailored suits and steely gaze lay a fracture, a secret pain from his past that no amount of wealth could mend. His mother, a black seamstress who'd immigrated from Jamaica, had raised him single-handedly after his white father abandoned them. She'd worked 3 jobs, sewing clothes by night, instilling in him a drive that propelled him to the top. But cancer took her too soon, when Alex was just 25, leaving him with regrets that echoed in his empty halls. It started on a rainy Tuesday in October. Alara arrived at the mansion earlier than usual, the bus delayed by traffic, her mind swirling with worries about her eldest daughter, Maya, who was applying to colleges she couldn't afford. As she hung her coat in the staff quarters, she noticed something missing from her locker, her spare pair of panties, simple black cotton ones she'd left there after a long shift the previous week when a sudden downpour had soaked her through. She shrugged it off at first, perhaps the laundry service had misplaced them. But as the day wore on, curiosity gnawed at her. During her afternoon rounds, she entered Mr. Harrington's private study, a room forbidden to most staff but entrusted to her for its sanctity. There, on his massive oak desk amid stacks of confidential documents and a crystal decanter of scotch, lay her panties. Folded neatly, almost reverently, right next to his laptop. Alara's heart plummeted. Her hands trembled as she stared, a mix of fury and humiliation boiling inside. Was this some sick game? A power play from a man who could buy and sell lives? She'd heard whispers about billionaires and their eccentricities, but this? This felt personal, invasive. Tears stung her eyes as memories flashed, years of microaggressions, the subtle racism in high society circles where she was just the help. She grabbed the panties, stuffing them into her apron pocket, and stormed out, vowing to quit on the spot. But something stopped her at the door, a small, faded photograph tucked under the desk blotter, peeking out just enough to catch her eye. It showed a young black woman, smiling warmly, holding a baby. Who was she? That evening, after the girls were asleep in their cramped apartment, Alara paced the kitchen, replaying the scene. Quitting meant no paycheck, no health insurance for her youngest, Lila, who battled asthma. But staying? Unthinkable. She decided to confront him the next day, dignity be damned. Meanwhile, across town in his mansion, Alexander sat in the dim light of his study, nursing a glass of whiskey. The panties weren't a fetish, they were a trigger, a painful reminder. He'd found them in the laundry room by accident, mixed in with his own linens. But as he held them, the soft fabric evoked memories of his mother mending clothes late into the night, her calloused hands stitching hope into every seam. Lately, grief had resurfaced, anniversaries did that, and in a moment of vulnerability, he'd placed them on his desk as a talisman, a connection to the woman who'd sacrificed everything for him. The confrontation came the following morning. Ilara marched into the study, her uniform impeccable as always, but her voice steady with resolve. "Mr. Harrington," she said, placing the panties on the desk with a thud that echoed like a gavel. "These are mine. Care to explain why they were here?" Alexander looked up from his emails, his piercing blue eyes meeting her brown ones. For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Then, he smiled, not a smirk, but a soft, wistful curve of his lips that caught her off guard. "Ilara," he said gently, his voice laced with an emotion she couldn't place, "sit down. There's a story I need to tell you. It's about a woman much like you, who taught me what true strength looks like." As he spoke, the walls between them crumbled. He told her about his mother, Elise, how she'd crossed oceans for a better life, facing discrimination in a new land while raising a biracial son. Elise had been a maid herself in her early days, cleaning homes in Brooklyn to put food on the table. The panties? A silly, sentimental act. He'd seen the tag, realized they were Ilara's, but in his solitude, they'd symbolized the unsung heroes like his mother, the black women who'd built empires from the shadows. Ilara listened, her anger melting into empathy. She shared her own struggles, the husband who'd left, the daughters she fought for, the dreams she buried under daily toil. For the first time, Alexander saw beyond the uniform, he saw a mirror of his mother's resilience. But challenges loomed. Word of the incident leaked somehow, a nosy gardener overheard snippets, and tabloids twisted it into a scandal. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire's bizarre obsession, Maid's underwear on desk." Ilara's phone buzzed with reporters, her daughters faced bullying at school. Alexander's board pressured him to fire her to salvage his image. Society's gaze turned harsh, amplifying racial undertones. Why her panties? Was it fetishism or something darker? Ilara grappled with shame, questioning if confronting him had been a mistake. Isolation crept in, friends distanced themselves, fearing association with the scandal Maid. Alexander, however, refused to back down. He called a press conference, not to deny, but to own the truth. "This isn't about impropriety," he declared to flashing cameras. "It's about honoring the invisible labor that built my life. Ilara Thompson is more than an employee, she's a reminder of my roots." He announced a foundation in his mother's name, dedicated to supporting single mothers of color in low-wage jobs, scholarships, healthcare grants, career training. Ilara stood beside him, not as the maid, but as the face of the initiative. The backlash was fierce at first, online trolls spewed hate, stocks dipped, but slowly, stories poured in. Women like Ilara shared their tales, turning the tide. Hashtags like #UnsungHeroes trended, humanizing the narrative. Personally, Ilara faced her deepest challenge, trusting again. Alexander offered her a promotion to household manager, with a salary that could send Maya to college. But pride warred with need. "I don't want pity," she told him one evening over coffee in the kitchen, a space once divided by class, now bridged by conversation. He nodded. "It's not pity, Ilara. It's partnership. You've kept this house running, now let me help keep your dreams alive." Gradually, she accepted, not just the job, but the friendship. He mentored her daughters, sharing stories of his own climbs. Lila's asthma treatments were covered, Maya's applications soared with his recommendations. As months passed, the plot thickened with internal conflicts. Alexander battled his own demons, guilt over neglecting his mother's final days in pursuit of wealth. Therapy sessions, prompted by Ilara's gentle nudges, unearthed buried pain. "You've got all this power," she said during a late-night talk, "but what's it worth if you're alone?" He reconnected with distant relatives, hosting family reunions at the mansion. Ilara, meanwhile, confronted her ex-husband, who resurfaced amid the publicity, demanding a cut. With Alexander's legal team behind her, she stood firm, securing full custody and closure. The resolution unfolded like a sunrise. The foundation thrived, helping thousands. Ilara pursued her long-forgotten passion for writing, penning a memoir about her journey that became a bestseller. Alexander found purpose beyond profits, stepping down as CEO to focus on philanthropy. Their bond deepened, not romantic, but familial, like the mother-son tie he'd lost. One crisp autumn day, exactly a year later, Ilara returned to the study. On the desk sat not Panties, but a framed photo of Elise and a new one of Ilara with her daughters. Alexander smiled and said, "Thank you for reminding me what matters." And so, dear viewers, this story isn't just about a misplaced garment or a billionaire's quirk. It's about the threads that connect us: race, class, loss, and love. It's a reminder that behind every facade lies a heart yearning for understanding. No matter your struggles, know that resilience can turn pain into power. If this tale touched you, smash that like button, it fuels more stories like this. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and join our community of dreamers. Share your own unsung hero stories in the comments below. Until next time, remember, true wealth is in the lives we lift. But wait, the story doesn't end there. Let's delve deeper into Ilara's backstory, because every hero has layers. Growing up in Harlem, Ilara was the middle child of 5, her father a factory worker who lost his job in the '80s crack epidemic that ravaged their community. Her mother, a nurse's aide, juggled shifts while instilling values of education and perseverance. Ilara excelled in school, dreaming of becoming a journalist, but life derailed her when she got pregnant at 19 with Maya. Marrying young to her high school sweetheart, Jamal, seemed like the right path, but Jamal's ambitions clashed with reality. He chased music dreams, leaving Ilara to hold down multiple jobs, waitressing, cleaning offices, while raising their family. The move to California came after Jamal's affair shattered their marriage. Ilara packed up the girls and headed west, lured by promises of better opportunities. Landing the job at Harrington's mansion was a godsend at first. The pay was decent, the hours flexible. But isolation set in. The sprawling estate felt like a prison of privilege, where she witnessed excess while her own fridge ran empty. She'd cry in the staff bathroom, wiping away tears before resuming duties. Little did she know, Alexander observed more than she realized. From his security feeds, he'd seen her dedication, her quiet strength, reminding him of Elise. Now, let's explore Alexander's rise. Born in 1967 to Elise Harrington, she kept her maiden name after the abandonment. Young Alex navigated a world that saw him as other, too black for white spaces, too light for black ones. Bullied in school, he channeled anger into academics, earning scholarships to MIT. There, he coded his first AI algorithm, founding Harrington Global at 28. Success came swift, but at a cost. His first marriage to a socialite ended in betrayal, the second to a colleague, in burnout. By 50, he was alone, his mother's deathbed words haunting him, "Don't forget where you came from, son. Money can't buy soul." The panty incident, as absurd as it sounded, became the catalyst. When Ilara confronted him, it wasn't just explanation, it was catharsis. He revealed how, after finding them, he'd sat there tracing the seams, memories flooding back of Elise sewing his school uniforms. She'd say, "These threads hold us together," he confessed, voice cracking. Ilara, moved, shared how her own mother taught her to mend clothes as a metaphor for mending life. That night, they talked till dawn, forging an alliance. Challenges escalated with the media storm. Paparazzi camped outside Alara's apartment, shouting questions that dredged up racial stereotypes. "Is this a modern-day slave-master fantasy?" one yelled. Her daughters suffered. Maya skipped school, Lila's asthma flared from stress. Alara considered fleeing, but Alexander's team provided security, relocating them temporarily to a guest wing. "Your family now," he insisted. Internally, Alara wrestled with imposter syndrome. Was she worthy of this spotlight? Therapy, funded by the foundation, helped her reclaim her narrative. Alexander faced boardroom battles. Shareholders demanded damage control, threatening a vote of no confidence. He countered with data. The scandal humanized the brand, boosting stocks among millennial investors valuing social justice. He pivoted the company toward ethical AI, hiring diverse talent. A key resolution came when Alara testified at a board meeting, her eloquence silencing doubters. "I've cleaned your messes for years," she said. "Now, let's clean up the world." As the foundation grew, success stories multiplied. A young mother from Detroit received a scholarship, echoing Alara's dreams. Alexander mentored entrepreneurs of color, bridging gaps he'd once crossed alone. Alara's memoir, Threads of Strength, detailed not just the incident, but systemic inequalities, how Black women in service roles are overlooked yet essential. It sparked dialogues, landing her TED Talks and media spots. Romantic subplots simmered subtly. Alara dated a kind teacher, encouraged by Alexander, who found love with a philanthropist. But their platonic bond remained the heart, weekly dinners where they shared laughs and lessons. Maya's college acceptance to Stanford, on a full ride from the foundation, marked a pinnacle. At the celebration, Alexander toasted, "To the women who stitch our world."